Now what we've done so far, as you can see, that bracket there, which was the original, what I've done, I've used that as the original hole, then I've drilled and tapped two other ones, and which will accommodate this new piece here. Now as you can see, that is fully bushed. It's got a brass bush all the way through. Now what happens is, with this one here, you've got, if I can find it, it's somewhere here, there we go. You got that scribe line, which is, it's not necessary really, but that's the original 0 point for when you check everything on the degrees and everything, or millimeters anyway. So what happens is that one there will go on like so. That's bolted, then it goes through here, bolts recessed, etc, etc. That's fine. So what we need to do is, I have to machine this part down and then put a thread on here, which is a 3/4 UNF. So I'll take you around the other side. Now we're around the back of it. Now what I've done is I've actually taken all the screws out of that section there, and that is there to stop all the metal filings and everything going down inside. Okay, now what we have to do is, that gear which is here, there's an Allen key in there. We have to undo that to pull the shaft right out, and at the moment I have got a toe jack under there. Now I don't know if that's going to move or not. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because it'll be fully supported. So that's that part of it. Now I'll go back around the front again. On this particular unit, to get to that point where I am now, I've had to take the whole front segment off here, pull the shaft out of there, which is the Y movement forwards and backwards, because I have to make a new bush assembly and everything to fit in here for the motor which goes on here, which is for your Y, which will go in and out. And then this one here, as you know, is the Z or Z, and that's got the other motor there. So so once I've got that out, I'll pull the shaft out, modify that. So I'll just go pull it out off camera, it's a bit awkward otherwise, and when I pull it out, I'll come back. Okay, we have this adapter made with the special extended bush and everything in there, and the 3 holes drilled. I've only just got this one sitting there for the moment, but to pull this shaft out, this is the procedure we have to go through. Now I have got it pretty well separated and everything, but what it is a big gear which is down the bottom there, which is this one here. I've actually got it upside down at the moment. That is reversed around the other way, and you've got 2 nuts. One's an adjustment nut, then a lock nut. But anyway, what happens is you have to pretty well undo the nuts off the bottom there, and to remove that gear you have to support the actual knee. You have to support the knee like this. I've actually got a toe jack under it so it can't fall down or anything like that. Now once it's supported, then you can turn around and undo off the handle itself. You can wind the actual threaded part down, which allows everything to go up and down. Once it's down far enough, then you have to take the bottom gear out from underneath here, that's down the bottom, which faces up. Once that's off, then once you've got your, like on this particular gear, which is part of the drive gear, off the handle itself, there's a grub screw in there that has to come off. Then you've got a couple of bearings, and as you can see I have had it off because I've had to show you. So there, just stick them on the side. Then you take this bushing out here, and to get that bush out you've got a grub screw where my thumb is. That pretty well locks it into place. All it is just a standard bush. So once that's out, then we've got that actual arm free. Okay, now that we've got the actual bushes out on the other side, I forgot to undo the screws. Alright, now that I've got the piece off again, all we do then is we just pull the shaft right out, and that is our shaft, that's it. I'll just modify the front and things. I'll just clean it up, put it on the lathe, and yeah, I'll show you on the lathe when we get there. Alright, this is the shaft for the knee, that's the cross shaft. Now what happens is, that's normally has got a crank handle and that's got a hex bolt on it, but that's part of it. But from there to that 20mm segment, that all comes down to 18mm OD to start off with. This part from here to here, that's going to be ready for a 19mm, which is actually it's a 3/4 inch UNF thread, so it's just over 19mm if you want to call it that. Whichever way, it doesn't matter, it's 3/4 inch UNF. So I'll take that down to 18 and then I'll clean that up, get it ready so I can do a thread on that part. That should go straight on there now, I think. Yep. Now all we'll do now is we'll put 30 odd mil of thread on there, so then that will go over there and that'll finish off our unit. And yeah, so we are getting there, believe it or not. Alright, what we're doing here is just a 3/4 UNF thread. I've had to reset all the gears on the lathe. I'll bring that back to you a bit later on. And that's the original bit of thread I've tried to put on with a die nut, and it's just a bit too hard. Now at the moment I think I've chased the thread properly, and we'll find out. So I'm not going very fast, I'm only doing about 88 revs per minute. And so what we're doing is we've chased the thread as far as I can see, and then we're just cutting it in off only a few thou at a time. And then all we can do is just leave it in gear, because it's a metric lathe, but I'm cutting a standard thread, which is a 16 threads per each, so it's not metric. So all I can do there is just bring it in and out. I'm not going to go fast forward, I'm only just going to go steady with it. Let's chase up to see how it looks. Problem is I can't turn the lathe on, because otherwise, because I've got it all set up for the cutting. Alright, what we've done now is I just ran the die nut up there just to make sure it's okay, and that all the thread was chased up correctly, so it wasn't bad. Now this is the part that has to fit over there. Now see if it goes on. Oh, look at that. That locks on really solid, it's not going to move. Alright, just as a quick rerun, what we've done here, this is the shaft I'll just bring it down. You can see where I've machined it. It's come out really good. It's a 3/4 inch thread, which 16 TPI went there. It is. Anyway, so that, what's going to happen now is, and I'll do a bit later on, is that will fit in like so. You can see the bush, that's all recessed and everything, and then that will fit straight in like so, and then the thread will be on the outside. So I'll bring it back when I go to reassemble it all. Just before I do shoot off, that's a piece that has to go on there. I'll just put that on one-handed. I hope it doesn't go everywhere. So you can see that's going on really easy. But yeah, so that will fit in like so. Anyway, we'll go right in eventually, and then yeah, then we'll start putting it back together. Alright, we've got a breakdown of the shaft before I assemble it. The reason is because once I start assembling it's a bit hard to see. But this is basically the shaft. This part here will go on the inside on the gearing part, and this part here is where it goes on the outside. So we'll deal with the inside first. Now what happens is when we pass or put that through the opening in the initial part of the knee, which is on the outside, that will go inside. Now when it goes through a piece of casting area. Now this bush here, that's this one here, that bush will fit in like so. Now that will sit in the casting, and well, actually it sits about there. So what happens then is you've got these half bearings with the where the needle roller goes in, so that'll go in like so. Then this one will go on like so, and then that one there will go on like so. So it's a proper unit. Then we've got the actual gear. Actually going further, but anyway, then we've got this gear here which goes on like so. So that is all like that, right? So that is actually goes in further, but anyway, just to show you roughly how it goes in. So that will stop being pulled out once it's in. Now in the casting there, as I showed you previously, there's a grub screw which locks that on. Then there's another lock screw, or a grub screw goes in there and locks that on. So what you do, you effectively, that goes right on the shaft further on. Now that will effectively sit like that in the bush. And so then what we do, once we've got that part assembled, then on this side that's the new modified bushing that I've got. As you can see, it's got grooves in for oil, etc. Now that will go on. Now as you can see, I have extended that segment there by 25 mil, so that will go right onto that surface there. Then what happens is, this is the new section which will screw in. Now as you can see, I've tapered that off. See, that's a lot thinner. The reason being is because when you put it on, it's a bit hard to do that, but I'll show you. If we imagine that is the bush, that cannot sit on the outside the bush because that'll lock up and it won't turn. So you have to have that recessed. So the recess is the same size as the actual shaft. So when that screws on like so, that screws on as part of the shaft itself. So that whole unit will turn, but will not bind up on that solid bush, because the bush does not turn. So that, I'll have to pull it all off again to show you. So that will go back on here, for example. That, I'm not sure exactly how far that will stick out, but I've allowed it previously. But anyway, so that part there, as you can see, that'll screw inside. Now if we pull that back like so, that will go onto there, or wherever it's going to go here. Once it's locked up, that'll go there. That will come forward, and then this part here is bolted on by 3 bolts, and so that's not going to move. So on the inside here, that's pressed up and pulled out with a grub screw there and a grub screw there, so that can't move. So that's in a lock position, and this will be in a lock position here. And then you've got the motor assembly going on here. Then once that's on, then you've got all the other bits go on from there. So I thought mainly to show this piece first, so you can see how it's going to be assembled. So the actual assembly, it's a bit awkward to show because there's just room enough for one hand and no camera. So anyway, we'll get back, I'll assemble that bit, then I'll show when it's on. Alright, what we've got here now is that is the actual spacer or adapter that fits over the shaft. That's this one here. Now what I've done is I've drilled a hole in here, and I've got an oiler in there, and then what I've had to do is I've drilled a hole from there on an angle which comes out just inside that area, so that will lubricate inside. Now what I have done at this stage, I've put actual grease in there, so you can see the grease in there. So what we're going to do is attempt to reassemble this now. So what will happen now is you can get into the shaft that's underneath. So what I'll do, I'll put a pair of like a pipe wrench underneath there, and then I'll just nip this up nice and tight, or as tight as you can get it without breaking anything. And then what happens later on, after we've got this whole thing assembled, the whole assembly with all of the gears and everything else on, then this will lock on the outside. Now after these are all shimmed up, then you go through and you put all that on. Then once you're at the locked up stage, then we'll make a mandrel for this and drill a hole straight through and put a pin through it. Alright, we're cutting the plate here. This is for the front bracket, which will go on for the white bearing, etc, etc. So yeah, we're just starting to cut this out. Once we've cut it out, then we'll just start and we'll mark it out. Alright, what we're doing is just squaring off this alloy plate that I just cut up. Alright, we're drilling the 4 basic holes here. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now what these are for will be the ones that bolt the unit straight onto the front of the actual milling machine, which is part of the Y setup. So I'm just going to put they're only going to be pilot holes. I have done one up here which is 10 mil, which will suit the bolt, but I'll use these 3 as locators, and then later on I'll be putting a couple of, there'll be one dowel pin here, one over here. So yeah, we'll go for it. Now what I've done here is I've turned around and I've actually got a pattern put on here. I'll just bring the view around for you. Whoops. Anyway, we've got the pattern there, and what it's supposed to look like is that unit there, right? So that will go onto there like so. When we've got it lined up, just approximately there, that's just roughly it. So that is the center. There'll be a bearing put in here, and then there'll be that'll be drilled out with 2 holes, one there, one here, which the actual the motor will sit on. And then I've got 4 holes, which will be, I'll just show you this if I can get this off here. There we go. So we got that locator, this one, the one over here, and the one back here as well, over here. So we've got our 4 locators. That's a central hole. Now when I turn it over, just within a border, just from there to there sort of thing, actually it's about here, all of that on the back of it has to have 5mm removed out the back of it, because when we come down here, I'll bring it down to here, I've just had to assemble this at the moment. There's a raised portion from say from here to the back edge of here is approximately 5mm. So what happens is the table here will come down and it'll stop just on that edge here. So this that 5mm here, which is this part here, has to also be transposed over the top. Well, we'll see anyway, because once it's taken 5mm, the whole thing goes forward, so the top half has to have 5mm taken off that as well. Otherwise the 4 locator bolts will be one here, one down there somewhere, and then somewhere around here will be one of these pin locators, which will be one on each side. What we're doing here is I've got it marked out, so I've got that back portion which I have to take 5mm out of. That'll go from here to there, there, and right across the front. So all of that will be coming out 5mm and in that little section there. Yeah, that's nice and smooth there. That's our 5mm out the back of it. And smooth there. Now the next process is I'm going to turn it back over, and then I'll get the boring bar out, and then I'll fit the actual bearing assembly in there. Now the bearing, and I'll be leaving probably about 2 to 2.5mm, something like that, of a surface between this and the thickness of it from where the bearing goes in, so it's got a shoulder to sit on. Alright, what we're going to attempt to do now, we've got our pattern here as you can see it. From about here, well it's a bit hard to show you because I've got everything in the road, but anyway, about that point there, coming straight back, and all that corner has to come out, and then we have to round off just this part here, and then I've got another section over here from there to there, and then partly rounded, and all of that has to come out as well.